I'm doing really well, and I'd like you to, first of all, thank you very much again for joining us today. As you can see, there's a lot of people in the room. All of these are actually our team leaders in JTVA. I'm not sure if you remember, but last year, we're really a small team, but now we're huge. So all of these are just the our operations team in the Philippines. So I'm pretty sure that you'd like it because, just to share, guys, Burton is also a Filipino. So yeah, the last time we spoke, he was talking about he's going to be really happy to see us grow. So Harold here is our operations manager. The rest are our subject matter experts and also team leaders. So again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Perfect. Thank you for having me. So I'm at your disposal, JC. I know that you guys wanted kind of some updates, kind of an update of the updates or anything that you need. So let me know what I can do to help your team.
Definitely. So really our goal for today is just really cover all of the recent updates that PropStream have. All of them are really great updates. Some of them recently were worrisome, but then I realized that it's not actually worrisome because when I did my research too, it doesn't really affect us. So it's one thing that we also would like to let everybody know. I think most of our team leaders have their own set of questions later on, but I guess we want to start off with you really just discussing the most or the recent updates, like the top few updates that that PropStream actually just launched. First of all, to just really cover the MLS update, and at the same time the ones that were fully introduced by PropStream, which I saw from your post, the DNC litigators, which is very exciting, and the other top things that you feel like needs to be shared within the group. So there.
Okay, no problem. So the first major update that occurred was January of this year, 2022. And what that update is when it comes to MLS data. So MLS data, for those that may not know, is data that comes from a realtor, right? So the thing about MLS data is it's not available to the public. Right, so we can't go to the city's website and find this data. You actually have to be a realtor to have this data. And for the last 6 years, we had every data that they had, except starting January, they took 2 of them away. So let's talk about the MLS data. Like, what did we have? What we have or had were 5 types. And so here are the 3, and 2 of them are now gone, but I'll explain what those 2 are. So right now we have active. That means a property is listed with an agent, a realtor. Contingent, this means the homeowner and the buyer is probably negotiating. Pending, this means that the buyer is almost close to buying the property. And then the last 2, which are now gone, are failed listing. So failed listing was like something that expired. So when you're selling a house with the realtor, they put a time limit on it, like 5 months, 6 months. If that house doesn't sell in that time limit, they take it off the MLS, right? So that's what we call a failed listing. And then the last one, the 5th one, is what we call a sold listing. And so when a realtor sold a house, they would flag it or put the status as sold and then tell us the sell price. Right now, the thing about MLS sold listings, the cool thing about it is that you get it before the city gets it, right? So if the city, let's say, if a house sells on the 1st of the month, sometimes the city can take 3 or 4 weeks to record that, right? If you have access to the MLS, if that house sold through a realtor, you could see the sale like the next week or the next 2 days. So you could see the sale before the city got to it first, right? So there were some extra benefits to that. So 5 types of MLS: active, contingent, pending, failed, and sold. Failed and sold are now gone, completely gone. We're trying to get it back, but for now they're gone. So failed listing. If you have a client who's like, hey, I need to get expired listings, we're not going to be able to help you out with that. Unfortunately, PropStream cannot provide that data anymore, so that won't be something we can help you with anymore. Now, sold data. How does that affect your clients or you yourself as a user? Well, in order to know whether it affects you or not, as JC mentioned, you got to do a little bit of research. And the only research you really need to do is search non-disclosure states and memorize these 12 states. And I'll put this in the chat for everybody right now. And so non-disclosure states, right? There are two types of states in the United States. There are disclosure states, and then there are these 12 non-disclosure states. Now, you're probably wondering what's disclosure, what's non-disclosure. Let me explain easily for you. Disclosure, like California, if I search Los Angeles, California, when a house is sold in California, the price will be displayed. So if a house is bought in cash in California, we get to see the sell price, right? That's a disclosure. They're going to disclose that price for us. But when we go to one of those 12 states I just put in the chat, for example, if we go to, let's say, Austin, Texas, Texas is a non-disclosure state. It's one of those 12 I just listed. And we look at a cash buyer, we cannot see the price anymore because the state is not going to give it to us. And we used to have the price, but now that's gone. So how does this affect you, right? It affects you when you're comping a property. So when you're trying to actually now get a value of a property. So when you're, let's say, in Texas and you're looking to get a price on this property, that's when it's going to affect you. Okay. So JC, I'm going to send you this infographic to hopefully help out. So how does the recent MLS changes affect me from comping properties? Well, if you're in the disclosure state, the 38 states that I did not list, everything's normal, right? So step one, you're going to go to the property details. You're going to go to the comparables and nearby listings. You're going to apply the characteristics. You're going to make sure you're selecting the sold comps. And then you're going to print that report. And then you're going to highlight the prices on that report. So it's going to look like this. If I go to Los Angeles again, because this is a disclosure state, and I find a property with a lien, when I go to that property, I'm going to go into the comparables and nearby listings. I'm going to use comparables. I'm going to add some filters, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, whatever your filters are. Choose sold listings and maybe add any other characteristics like it needs to have been sold by the bank or bought by the bank, residential, single family. And now I have my results. And so now I can check off the properties that I want, followed by printing out the report. And that's it. I'm done, right? Because the prices in California or the disclosure states, these prices are accurate prices because they come from the city and the city is giving us the actual price. So when I get the report in just a second here, if you can give me a moment here. Come on, report. When I get the report in just a moment, now while that report's generating, let me go ahead and get to Austin, Texas here. Come on.
So as you can see, guys, the recent updates actually did not affect us at all, because if you are in the in a disclosure state like the 38 states, pretty much it's the same, because ever since then, even if we don't have access to MLS within PropStream, you can see that basically the 12 other states just really don't disclose those information for the sale price. But with the help of MLS, that's giving us access to see the sold price. But in a sense, there's still 38 states. So absolutely, yeah, it's not like it's the end of the world.
No, and it's not. And one thing I want to just make sure I emphasize, it's the data doesn't change, right? So like in a non-disclosure state, you're still going to get pre-foreclosure data. You're still going to get the lien data. You're still going to get all that other data. You're just not going to get the price, the sell price. That's it. That's the only thing missing. So I don't want you to think, okay, non-disclosure state, there's no data. No. Non-disclosure state means there's no sell price. That's it. That's the only difference. Disclosure state, there's a price when we're comping a property, right? So I'm lagging a little bit, but let's go to Austin, Texas, just to explain the difference now. So I just showed you how to comp in a disclosure state, right? Los Angeles, non-disclosure state. The only difference because of the new changes is this last part, step 6, right? Step 6, you're going to have estimated prices. You're not going to have actual prices. You're going to have estimated prices. If you want the actual price, this is where you'll have to do a little bit more research. You'll probably have to contact the realtor in that area and just politely ask, hey, what did you sell this house for? Or you might have someone who has access. So if you have someone who has access, just log in and get that price. But that's the only step that's different. So when you're in a non-disclosure state like Austin, Texas, and you want to run a comp on a property with a lien, you do the same thing. You go to the property, you go to the comparables, and remember, the only thing that you just have to understand are these are estimated prices. And this is why we tell you it's estimated. And here's the reason why we're telling this is because we know that's not the actual price, right? So we don't want you talking to the homeowner and saying, oh no, your house sold for $665. No, it didn't sell for $665 because that's just an estimated value. That house could have sold for $667, right? $664. Again, we don't know the actual price, so we're giving you an estimate. And if you're wondering, how do you guys know that it's around $665? We have the mortgage information, the loan information. So we don't know what it sold for, but we know how much they use on a loan, right? So this house right here, we believe it sold for $665. And the reason we believe that is because there was a loan used last year. On March of last year, a loan of $532,000 was issued. Now, the thing about a loan here in the United States is before you get a loan, you have to put a down payment on the property, right? So the bank is not going to give you the entire loan. The bank will give you like usually 80% of the value, right? Yeah. Or 90%, depending on how good your score is, right? So what we're saying here is that we know that the bank gave them about 80%. And so what PropStream does is they add that 20%, and that's how we get that value, right? So it's very aggressive. What I'm saying is that our calculations are really, really, really good, that we can get you near the right value, but it's not the value. That's what I want to make sure we understand, okay? So don't want you arguing or telling the homeowner that's the sell price. It's not the sell price, okay? So how does this affect me when I'm running comps? Well, the only thing that you need to understand is that these are not the right prices, but we could still help you by telling you what address sold next to the property, the date that it sold, and the characteristics of those properties. So I can go into PropStream and say, hey, look, I need all the 1-bathroom properties. I need all the properties that have, 700 to 820 square footage. Find those similar properties and then print them on a piece of paper so I can still get that report from PropStream. The only thing I got to be careful about is on the report, right? So when I'm going to give this to Mr. or Mrs. Santos here, the only thing I need to understand are these prices are not accurate, right? They're not the actual sell price. So I don't know if you guys are good at Photoshop or editing images, but what you'll probably do is print this report, and you got to do one extra step, one more homework, right? And that is you need to contact that realtor. So at this point, I don't know how you're going to do it. I mean, we can't do it for you, but you might need to just maybe Google the address. I've seen people Google the address, search that address online, and see if there was a realtor's phone number on the website. So sometimes you can get the phone number on the website. You can call the agent once you get that phone number somewhere here on the website. But that's all you're going to need to do. So we can still help in non-disclosure before January of this year. you did not need to call the agent at all. I mean, we could have given you everything, right? But because of the changes, you now got to understand that step 6 is not the sell price. It's an estimated value. And in order for you to get the sell price, you need to now reach out and speak to the local realtor or the person that sold the property. Again, the best way to do that is to highlight the address and then just search it on Google, and you should be able to find the realtor's information on that property. If you can't find the realtor's information on that property, Google a realtor in that market, randomly call one, but try to make sure you're building a good relationship, because they're not just going to give you that information. You might have to be nice or complimentive or whatever it may be. But that's it. That's the MLS changes. That's the how it may impact you as a user. Again, the major impact is when it comes to comping. One, disclosure states are going to give you the actual price. Non-disclosure states, the 12, will be estimated value. Okay. Do you have any questions on that? Or JC, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to ask, like, whether this changes, because I don't think it's just PropStream that lost access to the MLS just recently. I think that other competitors also have lost access. Just to ask, Burton, do you think wholesaling is actually getting more regulated in a sense? Although most of our clients have access to MLS, so it wouldn't be more of a problem. But I just want to know, is this related to somehow us being more regulated?
I mean, there could be some correlation. I mean, there's so many different reasons as to why this has happened. And no, I wouldn't say necessarily because of the regulations. I mean, regulations have been around for a long time.
Yeah, it's been there.
And the thing that we have to know too is that this is not because of the regulation. Like, I know most of you guys are not in the United States, but being a realtor and having the MLS, one of the rules about that is you can't share that data, right? You just can't. And so what we have been doing and what we are doing now, you know, with the active and contingent and pending is kind of iffy, right? Like, we're not supposed to be doing it, but we have permission to do it, right? And that's what we were doing with the failed and sold listing. We had permission to give that out. And then that permission was restricted. They said, nope, you can't do it anymore. And it's taken away. So it's not like it's a new thing. It's always been around. They've always said never share that data. And so for the last 6 years, we've been in a different category where we could do it. No one else can do it, right? And now they took two of those two things out of that category. So no, I don't think it has anything to do with the regulation. Now, granted, could the regulation be just more gasoline to the fire? Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? Could the realtors have seen your regulations recently in the wholesaling world and say, hey, we need to step away from that industry? Again, there's so many reasons why, but no, I don't think that's a direct correlation. I don't think the recent regulations or the industry being regulated has anything to do with the MLS data being removed at all.
Got it. And I appreciate your response on that. Do you guys have any questions on that? Because like I said, we still have 38 states, and in a sense, this is not like the end of the world, because you still have different ways to actually get the best comps, because most of us also have access, or our clients have access to MLS, since most of them are also realtors. So this shouldn't be an issue to us.
And that right there is a great. So, and most of them are in their market. So if you are working with an investor who is in a non-disclosure state, they are very aware that no one else has the sell prices but them, right? And so when you say, hey, I can't get the sell prices, they're going to be very understanding. But the cool thing about PropStream is you may not be able to get the sell price, but you could still go to Austin, Texas and find them that vacant property that they want, or that senior owner that they want, or that's, so the leads are still good, right? Just the price is what's missing. And so I don't want you to think, man, I'm in a non-disclosure state, I can't do anything. No. You can still pull your lead. It's just when it comes to comping, the pricing is just the only issue. Okay. So thank you guys so much for soaking that in. Let's go ahead and move into the next update, which happened last week. The next update was the mortgage information. So In our filter, we added 3 new filters in the mortgage info section right here. And those filters are searching the type of loan that building has. So it could be like a conventional loan, an FHA loan. Now, I'm not a loan expert, so I do advise you guys to do some research on the different types of loans. But loan type is just the first filter we added. The interest rate. So depending on how good you are as a, how responsible you are with money, you'll either get a small interest rate or a high interest rate. And sometimes the high interest rates could be motivated sellers, right? Sometimes someone gets a loan and they think everything is good, and then they realize the interest rate is taking more money from them. And so sometimes they want to sell that high interest rate property. And last but not least, the interest rate type, right? So there are different types of interest rate. So you can have an interest rate, let's say of 5%, meaning every time you put $100 towards your payment, they take $5 away from you, right? So you're actually putting only $95 towards your payment because $5 goes to the bank interest, right? Now, the thing about interest rate types is some of them are fixed, meaning it's never going to change. It's going to always stay 5%, right? So every time you put $100, $5 goes to the bank, right? Some of these loans don't always have that. So sometimes the person doesn't have good credit, right? So they'll get what we call an adjustable rate, where today it's 5%, but depending on how the market and how society is, that 5% could be 5.5% in the next 10 years, or it could be 6%, right? And that is right now what's happening in the United States. They're saying that the interest rates for banks, which have been low for like the last 2 years because of the pandemic, they pushed it really low. Now that everything's coming back to normal, they're saying that the rates are going to come back up because the banks got to get their money back, right? So for someone who has an adjustable rate, right, let's say 5%, every time I pay, let's use a bigger number now. Every time I pay $2,000, right, you're going to take $100 from me, right? So that right there, I'm sorry, $50 for me. That right there is the issue, because today it's only $5 that you're giving to the bank. When that rate goes up, let's say it goes up to 10%, now your $5 is $10 that's going to the bank. And some people can't afford that, right? So some people only have just that $100. They don't have that extra money to give to the bank. And so this has become a very popular search for some of our users, like anybody that's a lender. So if you have any clients that say, oh, I'm a lender, we give loans to people as well, you might want to let them know about these 3 new filters. You can let them know, hey, you're a lender? Well, I have a way to find people that have a FHA loan, or, the senior owners, the older folks that have a reverse mortgage, or someone who has a high interest rate. So these are the new filters. Not only are they something that you can filter for, so let me give you an example here. I'm going to go to Phoenix, Arizona, which is a big market, and I want to find a senior owner who probably doesn't have a job anymore, right? So they're probably only getting like $1,000 every month from the bank or the government, maybe $2,000 every month from the government. So I want to find a senior owner who's on a adjustable rate. So that percentage could go up and they're now in trouble. So I want a senior owner with an adjustable rate, and the rate percentage is already high. It's at 8%, right? Or higher. And that's what we can give you. So now we can show you all those properties that are owned by somebody for a long time. And when you go to their mortgage, you can see the lender name, the type of loan, and the interest rate, and the fact that it's adjusting, meaning it's going to keep potentially go higher and higher and higher. And again, just, you got to do the math here. So every time he pays $1,300 every month, every time he pays $1,300, money is coming out of that. About 8.6% is going to the bank, right? And so that's where it can become an issue. So this is a new search feature. It's also in the details for 2 reasons. For one, people to search for these types of records. And for two, when you're talking to the homeowner, right? When you're talking to the homeowner, we understand that the financial, like the mortgage, who the mortgage is owned by, how much your mortgage payment is important. And so we wanted to make sure that you had more information so that when you're talking to Efren and Jorge over here, you have, again, more ammunition. Hey, Efren. Hey, Jorge. I'd like to talk to you about your loan with First Franklin Financial. I see your rate is really high. How's that working out for you guys? Oh, the payments are too much now. Well, let me help you then. You see how having that information allowed me to work with that conversation. And that's the importance. So not only did we add more details in the mortgage area, those can also be filtered when performing a search. So that right there is one of our newest filters that came out just last week. So,
and if I'm not mistaken, Burton, sorry to cut you off. I think the estimated, it's interesting to see that the estimated monthly payments are also now available within the mortgage transaction. Because I think last time it was just the estimated loan balance, right?
No, it's been there. That's been a little, if it's available. Yeah, some properties may not have it. If you're looking at like a cash buyer, you probably won't see that because they don't have a mortgage. So it'll just won't be there at all. And then some properties, we can't calculate it. So it'll just be blank, period. But it's hit or miss. It's either going to be there or not going to be there.
Got it. Okay. Appreciate that. And that's really great.
Yeah,
that's really great.
Usually you will see it and sometimes it won't. So it's sometimes you'll see one of them and not the other one. But yeah, it's hit or miss. It'll either be there or not.
Got it. Any questions, guys, so far? All good?
Nope. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Burton.
You're welcome. And this last one is a big one for the realtors. So one thing about being a realtor is when you're looking for properties to work with, it cannot be listed by another realtor, right? So very important about properties not being listed by another realtor. Actually, I'm taking that back, not listed by another. It can't be what they say on the do not call list, right? Because when you're a realtor, unless you're an investor, okay, but when you're a realtor, like an actual realtor doing a job, when you're calling people, you have to let them know what you're doing, right? You're providing a service. Hi, I'm a realtor. I'd like to be the one to sell your house, right? So I'm providing a service, right? That right there, when you provide a service, that's where it can be a problem, because some in the United States, we have the ability to put our phone numbers on a list. It's called a do not call list. And what that means is you cannot call me and do that, right? Now, before, we never told you who was or wasn't on the do not call list. Today, we can. So I can build a list. I can go into Phoenix, Arizona. I can grab a lien. Let's find some individual properties here. All right. And after I grab a lien, I'm just going to grab like 50 of them and save them. I can now skip trace it. So Phoenix liens and get the list of people that I should not be calling, right? So now when I have my lists right here, liens, I could skip trace it. And in a few moments, it's going to give me my results. So let's go ahead and show you that really quick. I'm going to place that order so you guys can actually see a live example of what it's going to look like. All right. And we'll give it a few seconds while it's doing that. So again, the reason why we're doing this is because if you fall into that realtor, if you're an actual profession where you're providing a service, and I'll give you a few examples: realtors, contractors, insurance brokers, the lenders, the people that provide loans, those are all services, right? So usually when these guys are calling a homeowner, a list that you're going to give them, right? You're going to be offering that service. Hey, I'm a realtor. Hey, I'm a banker. Hey, I'm a contractor that wants to fix your home, or I'm an insurance agent that wants to give you insurance, or you're providing a service. And that is where you can get in trouble, because Again, we have a list. We can put our phone numbers on the list, and that phone number is enforced by the federal government. So if anybody is caught selling services to these people, you're going to get in trouble. Like, you literally will get sued, right? So your clients could get in trouble. So now, for the first time ever, we're going to be able to tell you which numbers you should not call. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Some of the investors that you work with will still call them, right? And let me explain why they call them. An investor is different than the other groups I mentioned, right? Because an investor, what you guys are doing, right? When you guys are cold calling your agents, or when your callers are cold calling the homeowner, you're not offering them a service. What you're trying to do is kind of reverse it. You're trying to let the homeowner offer you something. And what is that? That's the house, right? So investors can technically get away with calling a DNC phone number, right? So if you're looking to get the homeowner to sell you their house, technically you can call a DNC. But again, if you're trying to get them to list it under you as a realtor, or you're trying to get them to get a loan, or trying to get them to get insurance, or any of that stuff, then you got to be very careful. But here it is. Here's the example. Once you skip trace now, we're going to tell you what numbers you should not be calling. Again, these are the numbers that are on that list. And so when I'm skip tracing, or when I get my results, I know that out of the 50 liens, Paula is someone I should not be calling. Now, again, that doesn't mean that doesn't mean I can't call her. It's just when I call Paula, I can't say, hey, Paula, how would you like to get a loan today? If I do that, I'm going to get in trouble. Simple as that. I've violated the law now, right? But if I call Paula and say, hey, Paula, would you like to sell your house to me? That's not providing, I'm not offering her, I'm asking her to sell me something, right? So again, there's some tricky stuff behind that. So some of our investor friends, they just don't bother calling anything with the DNC. They'll call everything else that does not have a DNC. So this is the big change today. Happened just yesterday morning. We are now going to tell you which phone numbers you should not be calling. Whether you call it or not, we're going to leave that up to you. So that's the first change. The second change is we look through the results. So when you look at Peter right over here, we gave you, starting from top to bottom, the best and most used number versus the least used and oldest number. So start from top and then bottom. Don't go bottom up. Okay. So if you're going to start calling these homeowners, again, start from the top number, and the bottom number is usually going to be the oldest number. Not to say it might not work. It's just the oldest number. So I would probably start with the first and then work your way down. First, work your way down. First, work your way down. And those are the recent updates with that, JC.
Thank you very much. And that's definitely a game changer. I like to see that there's DNC filters now. That's because I'm pretty sure Ray can relate. He has one client who also was in trouble because of the fact that we are cold calling. But just like what Burton said, I think when you are asking someone that, hey, I want to go ahead and buy your property, you're not actually offering them a service, but instead, you are basically wanting to buy their property. So in a way, we have a leeway because we're not offering them a service. We're basically wanting to buy their property. So it's not
nailed it right on the head. Oh, and also don't forget, guys, some of your clients will probably have a list. Make sure you let them know that they can import. So here at the top, you can import an outside list. I'm sure you guys are very aware of this, but if they import an outside list, they can skip trace that outside list and see which numbers to not call. So if someone says, hey, I heard about PropStream, but I also have this other list, hey, give me that list and I can get you phone numbers or whatever it may be, right? So import outside list can help your clients out as well.
Thank you very much. And Burton, regarding the recent updates, I'm actually just curious to know, because before, when we used to pull like the best cash buyers list from PropStream, that we normally would use the sold property filters, right? Is there a better way now to actually pull cash buyers? Because before we have to like look back anything that was purchased, 1 year ago or 2 years ago. Do you have any suggestions or recommendations on how we can pull cash buyers better?
No, you would still have to do that. The cash buyer, you still have to put a time limit on it, because the way that we think of it is like, again, we deal with a lot of different professionals, and
Professionals.
some professionals want buyers from 10 years ago, right? So when you're looking at a cash buyer, we're going to give you every record. We're going to give you the buyer from this last few months. And we're also going to give you the buyer, from many, many, many years ago. If you go to the last page, we're going to show you the buyer from 2014 and 2008 and so forth, right? So, no, you're still absolutely correct. CC, I would encourage everybody to, first thing they do once they find a buyer is go back maybe a year or two, right? Last sell date, let's just go back maybe to July, 6 months, if you're in a busy market. For aggressive buyers though, CC, this is what I would actually do. Numbers of properties owned. I would actually put a number there. So, hey, I want a cash buyer. I don't care if it's a person or a corporation, but what I do want is that they have a lot of property. Because that way I know that they're serious, right? They're not just someone who just started last year. This is a business or a person who has 5 to 15 properties, right, under their name right now. And so when I give them a contract, they know how serious we are, right? And so that's something I would recommend doing, is using that. And so now you can see, hey, Team TK Properties here, they have 7 properties all under their name. And so these are, again, more aggressive buyers. That's the search I would use. The other one I would recommend would be flippers, using the flippers list right here. Find me a flipper. And so what a flipper is someone has bought a house and in less than 2 years they're selling it again, right? And normally normal people don't do that. When you buy a house, you usually live in it forever, right? But a flipper, so if anybody's buying and then selling it in less than 2 years, that's most likely an investor. So this would be another good list to go after. So Phoenix, show me the flippers, but I just want to see the individual flippers. And now when you look at the property here, you can see the name of the flipper. So Crystal and Michael are the ones flipping the house. And you can also see their agent's information. So, hey, Allison, how's it going? Do you have any flippers I can talk to? Because I have some properties they might be interested in. So these 2 categories are your best bet. Cash buyers, but put a limit on the time and put a minimum properties owned, because again, the more properties they have, the more serious they are. Or use the flippers list and get the person's name or the agent's name, and hopefully you can get good luck that way. But those are the 2 best alternatives or options, I would say, CC.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Burton. And since we're actually on filters, I just noticed that we also have added the zombie properties. I know it's been there for quite a while. It's actually been sitting there for quite a while, but I just want to understand, what's the difference between the pre-foreclosures and zombie properties? Because if I'm not mistaken, they are somehow at least somehow have similarities. Yeah. So I kind of want to know, what is the best filter to use, whether it's going to be the pre-foreclosure or the zombie one?
No, I would definitely stick with pre-foreclosures. So zombie properties, that's a combination. Zombie properties is a combination of pre-foreclosure and vacant together. So, I mean, you could have done that normally in the past. You could have said, hey, I just want to see pre-foreclosures that are vacant, right? So here in the United States, it's a terminology that a lot of investors use. They say, hey, go find me the zombie properties. And what they mean is vacant pre-foreclosures. Put those together. And those are the ones I want, right? So that's what a zombie property is. So because that search was being used a lot, our company decided, let's just put it together for them. And
so they don't have to filter them.
the same 9. Yeah. So again, the 9 properties here, 1, 4, 2, 3, 3, 4, 2. It's the same if I would have done it this way. Pre-foreclosure, vacant, same, right? So I personally would say do the pre-foreclosure because you get a bigger option, right? Whereas if you do zombie, it's specific. It's pre-foreclosure vacant. And just because you're already being specific, you go from 200 results to 9 results. And that might not help out anybody at that point. So I would say stick with pre-foreclosures, unless the homeowner says, I want vacant, 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 then okay, we can do zombie properties, right? But again, if you forget to do that, you can do it that way. It doesn't really matter. So that's what zombie properties are: pre-foreclosure, vacant combined. But from an opinion standpoint, I would maybe not start with that, because again, you got 9 records to play with at that point, and that's not going to get you too far.
And just for the purpose of this, appreciate that. I just wanted to ask again, like, what does it mean again when we actually use the filter vacant? Because some people are actually under the impression that, hey, if I selected vacant, that actually means that it's vacant. But definitely when we select vacant here, that doesn't really exactly mean that it's vacant, but it could be people that have, that haven't been answering their mails or not.
You nailed it right on the head. Yeah. So let me this is a great resource. Actually, I would encourage everybody to look at this. I'm gonna put it in the chat for you guys. I would bookmark it. But this is a link to the different lists that we have and the definitions. But CeCe, you nailed it right on the head. Vacant identifies properties currently flagged as being vacant by the U.S. Postal Service. And so what that means is the Postal Service, when they deliver the mail, and they do that every day, right? When they deliver the mail, if the mail is being answered, you're good, right? If all of a sudden the mail is no longer being answered, right? So let's say, Monday, the delivery guy comes, nobody's answering the mail. Tuesday, deliver, and all of a sudden the box is getting filled. Well, the mail carrier will say, hey, nobody's here, it's vacant, right? Because if you were there, you would be occupied, you would answer the mail. But because you're not answering the mail anymore, that's what they call a vacant property. And again, it's by the Postal Service. So CeCe, you're absolutely right. The problem, or not really a problem, the confusion in our industry, real estate industry, is that when we say vacant, right, your clients, your realtors, your investors, they're picturing an empty house, right? Like it's abandoned, it's falling apart. That is not what this list means, right? What this list means is the opposite. It just means a house not answering their mail. So it could be a perfectly new house. It could be a really old house. It could be a house that is 5 years old. All we know is that they're not answering their mail. That's it, right? We don't know if it's abandoned. We don't know if it's falling apart. They're just not answering their mail. And another issue where that becomes a challenge is that you have to understand why someone does not answer their mail, right? So why doesn't someone answer their mail? Well, I can think of 3 things. They either moved out and they forgot to forward their mail. That's why they're not answering it, right? So it's a recently sold house. And this is where we get a lot of calls. Someone will say, I'm pulling a vacant property and that property just sold last year. Why is it vacant? Well, we have to let the person know, just because someone bought it doesn't mean they moved their mail to that property yet, right? And so if they haven't moved their mail yet, the mail carrier doesn't know it was bought recently. The mail carrier will flag that. So we get a lot of complaints because people don't understand. They think, oh, I thought I was pulling a list of abandoned houses. No, you're not pulling a list of abandoned houses. You're pulling a list of properties not answering their mail. Now, some of these properties could have been bought last month. They could have been bought last year. If you want someone that hasn't been answering their mail and they've lived in that house for a long time, then this is what you need to do. Vacant, years of ownership, right? So what you're doing now is saying, hey, I want someone to live in their house for 15 years or more, and now they're not answering their mail. This is how you want to use the vacant list, right? And a lot of people don't do that. And so what ends up happening is they start calling those houses that just got bought in September of last year or December of last year, right? And obviously, do you think a person that just bought a house is going to sell the house to you? Nope.
For sure not.
No. Exactly. So you want to make sure if you're using vacant, you understand that it means they're not answering their mail. And that means that it could be someone that moved in and didn't forward their mail. It could mean that someone no longer has has been there for a long time and is not answering their mail. So again, I would, for vacant, always add some years of ownership, right? Because no one that just bought it is going to sell you the house. But that's a great bring up right there, CeCe.
Yeah, and definitely worth mentioning because we hear that a lot too from our clients. Like, hey, why are we pulling vacant lists? And yet when I went there, it's not really vacant. And that's the explanation right there. And to end this really, Burton, my last question would be, what are your 3 favorite motivated lists from PropStream? In case that you're doing real estate wholesaling, just interesting to know.
So I don't do real estate wholesaling, but the 3 favorite lists I see that I thought have been interesting over the last few years that people have done. One of them was the pandemic. It was called the regret list. And so this one I thought was clever. This one, the person was looking for people, so any individual that bought a house a year before the COVID. So he was looking for anybody that bought a house January 2019 to December 2019 with a mortgage, right? So let me go back. 2019, December, there you go. And, not 2018, 19. And with a mortgage. And there, again, the reason why is, let's look at this, for example. So Phoenix, Arizona, in 2019, 15,000 houses were bought. 15,000 people did not know that next year, 2020, the world was going to get shut down, right? And so in 2020, a lot of people lost their jobs in the United States. I'm sure the same happened in the Philippines. A lot of people died, right? So this is something that I saw someone do recently, and I thought this was very, very clever. I thought this was smart because there's a lot of people, 15,000, that bought a year before COVID. And so they were good in 2019. They had a job, they were healthy, they could make these payments. But then a year later, and COVID-19, you might have lost your loved one. You might have lost a husband, a wife who was making money for the house, right? Or you might have lost your job and now you can't make payments anymore. This is the first list I saw that I was like, wow, that's smart. That's very, very, very smart, right?
Whoever invented it is really smart. That's actually my first time seeing it.
Yeah.
Out of all the videos I've seen on YouTube and everything that's out there, that's very smart. I didn't even think about
it. Only because there was a pandemic. I think this is a genius one. And again, this is similar to what I was showing you guys earlier, because we're hearing that the interest rates are going to be climbing this year, right? That means people are going to have to make more payments. Like their payments are going to get a little bit higher. I'm seeing people now searching for this, just adjustable. Like, let's find people with an adjustable rate right now, right? Because if the rates are going to go up, these 11,000 people their payments are going to increase by $50, $100 a month, or $200 a month. $200 a month in a year, that's over $2,000, right? And so that's a lot of money for some people. And so again, this would be something I would keep in the back of your mind. Not that it's a big one now, but it could be big very soon. So the first one was people that bought in 2019 with a mortgage. I thought that was crazy. The second one, I think this one works every single time. I think this is smart as heck. Going into a market, looking for the senior owners, but they are in a big house, a 2-story building, and lots of square footage, maybe like 1,500 square footage or more.
And that's one of my favorite too.
Big one that I see a lot of people get really good success on, finding those senior owners in 2-story buildings. And the last third search I see a lot of success in. Same search, senior owners, except not in 2-story buildings, but senior owners that are out of state. That's a big one. Senior owners out of state. Again, COVID, pandemic, a lot of them are not traveling right now. Now they might be soon because they're getting the vaccine now, but for the last year or two, out of state senior owners, that was a big one. And also out of state landlords, because again, collecting a paycheck from a different state is an issue, right? And if the person renting from you lost their job, in 2020, the federal government told all homeowners that were renting their house, if your renter, the person renting from you, lost their job, you can't kick them out, right? You cannot evict them. And that lasted a whole year. So there were people who were living inside other people's houses for free for a whole year. And so there are some tired landlords right now that are just like, I'm done with this. I don't want to deal with this crap anymore, right? So I would consider landlords, especially the ones out of state. And again, I'm going to say this because CC, everybody here, if I was living next to you guys and I owed you money, right? You could just knock on my door and say, Burton, where's my money, right? I'm right next to you, right? But right now I'm in the United States and you guys are in the Philippines. If I owed you money, how are you going to get that from me, right? You have to like bug me every day. I can not answer your phone call. You literally have to fly to the United States and find me and then say, hey, where's my money? That's what these guys were going through the last few years. A lot of them that are landlords, especially the ones out of state, they were not getting the pay. And then they would call the renter and say, hey, where's my money? And the renter, oh, I forgot. I'll get that to you next week. Hold on 1 second, right? And then they just keep forgetting and forgetting and forgetting. And before you know it, landlords are like, hey, I want to sell my house. I'm done with this, right? You worry about it. You take care of the person inside the house that's not paying me, whatever it may be. So these are the three big lists. The ones that bought in 2019 with a mortgage, senior owners in a 2-story building, senior owners out of state, and tired landlords out of state. Those are 4 of the top searches I've seen. And I think those have provided people the best results, in my opinion.
Thank you very much for that. Actually, definitely senior ours, our personal favorite, as well as tired landlords list. So all of these tips really helps. And as you guys can see, you don't just have to select the types of lists. You have to do your own magic. Basically, you have to be smart enough to understand, okay, what is it, or what is it that would make someone actually sell their property? The ones for 2019 list is very interesting to me. That's because, again, who would have thought that, okay, you might want to look for properties that were actually bought in 2019 because maybe along the way they lost their job, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that this helps. I'm gonna give everybody at least just 5 minutes just to end this. If you guys have any questions, any interesting questions that was not discussed. Thank you so much, Burton. This is really, really gold, amazing. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you again for having me, CC. I love the fact that your team is growing. I'm looking forward to being back here. We'll have some more updates throughout the year, and so once we have those updates, I'll get with CC. We'll get on schedule again and show you guys how those updates can help you find some newer leads and make your customers happy at the end of the day. So again, thank you guys so much. Please, if you have a question, speak up. Don't be nervous. Don't be shy. I'm definitely here to help you guys.
And I like your background now, Burton.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, remember when it was just white?
Yeah, it was all white last time, but now
all
it's
white.
improved. Yeah. So guys, any questions? I'll give you 30 seconds to decide if you do have any questions. Anyone? Andy?
Fine, all good.
DJ?
All good.
All good.
Ray? Sir Harold?
Yep, I do have one, maybe
What's
a 2. And thank you, Burton, for that
Of course.
very informative updates, especially the suggestion about the how to pull a list. I'm going to review that again later on. But for now, I'm going to ask you what to do if we have a multiple zip code in one location. Like I got like 50 or 40 zip code. Some of them are 12 in every area. I tried to search them in one time, then I get a lower number compared to searching them individually. So it takes a lot of time. Can I share a screen? Maybe it's better for me to share a screen.
Yeah, when it comes to zip codes, the max you can search is 5 at a time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you try to do more than that, it just won't populate. So yeah, that might make sense, because if you try to put like 12 of them and then search, you're not going to get all the 12 results. You're going to get only 4. So yeah, that's the most you can do. So first zip code, comma, space, next zip code, comma, space, and then just rinse, recycle, repeat. Now, I take it, if you don't mind me asking, you're using the same filter in the same zip code again and again and again. Is that correct, Harold?
That is correct.
Okay, so here's what you want to do. I would actually highly recommend you do this first. So pay very close attention. Before doing the search, before doing the actual like market, just go into the filter and do the filter. So let's say your client wants tired landlords that are individual, out of state, and are single family, and last but not least, equity, right? It has 50% in equity. Put the filters in first. Once the filters are here, go ahead and hit close, and then hit save search. And then what you want to do, just call it a template. Call it, client A template, right? Let's say that's the first client you have, client A template. Then put the details, tired landlord, out of state, et cetera, right? And then don't worry about these two. Just leave them alone. Hit save. And now what's going to happen, Harold, is you're going to have that search right here waiting for you. Do you see that? This is what you're going to do now. Once you've created this search, then you punch in your zip codes, 92688, 90242, or whatever it may be. I'm just going to randomly put some here. 691. All right, I know 92691, 21. Right, no, sorry, 656. Up. 656. 5. Okay, so once you have your 5, you're going to click on your 5 zip codes because 5 is the max. You're going to get your 5 results, right? So it's going to say, hey, your total record is 55,000 for all of them, right? Then what you're going to do, all searches, and just click on your template. And it's going to grab your filter and give it to you in that right-hand side. Does that make sense?
Right. Okay.
Okay, so then here's what you do next. You're going to take those results and you're going to save it to a list. We're going to now call it client A's list and hit save. So now we've created this list with these first 5 zip codes. And you know what we're going to do now? We're going to clear out those zip codes and do the next 5 and then the next 5 and the next 5 until you're done all of them. But what you want to make sure you do is add them to the same list, right? So when I do the next 5, let's say go into a whole different zip code now. When I do the next 5, so I hear my 105, I'm going to grab those 105, again, same criteria, just in the next 5 sets of zip codes, but add them to the same list. I don't create a new list, just add them to the same list. So since you can't search 50 zip codes, only 5 at a time, what you got to do is create a template first. Once you do that, then you can start searching them 5 at a time and then just put the results in the same list. And then you're good to go. So it may be different zip codes, different states, but they're all the same criteria, just in multiple zip codes coming in. Does that make sense, Harold?
Makes sense. Perfect.
That's the only way around it. Hopefully in the near future, we are upping our server to a very high-end server. And in the future, we're thinking about doing statewide searches. So you might be able to search an entire state and say, hey, I want to look at all of California with this filter. And so right now we don't have that. This is the only way around that. Search a filter and then do increments of searches along the way.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that. Guide my second question here.
Yes.
You mentioned a while ago that in order for us to identify the DNC, we need to skip trace that. So is there a way before skip tracing it, removing those DNC first?
No.
Or if no?
Because DNC and skip tracing are 2 separate companies, right? So in order for us to know who's DNC'd, we need the phone numbers first. So you have to get the phone numbers, which we don't know which are and which are not DNC. So you have to pay for that no matter what. So let's say that's $10, you pay for it. Then once you have that, it goes to the DNC guys. And then they say, okay, out of the 100, that's DNC, that's DNC. So there's no way in advance to say, I don't want the DNC, because it comes later in the process, right? So the phone numbers come first, then they go to the next guy, and then you see it. So again, there's no way to say in the very beginning, I don't want to see what I see at the very end until we get to that point. So there's no way to avoid that, unfortunately.
Right. Makes sense, because there are some people who want their phone number to be DNC, but they have a second number that don't want to be part of the DNC.
Absolutely. And sometimes you're going to get customers that say, well, why did I pay for you for that? And that's how I explain it to them. I go, hey, you didn't pay for it. PropStream is just letting you know at no additional cost, right? If PropStream didn't let you know, PropStream would have given you the number without your knowledge, right? I mean, like they would have given you that number and you would have not known to call or not to call them. So a lot of people say, well, why can't I remove it before? And I explain them that way. It's because we don't know until we get the number first. You have to pay for the numbers. And then as a courtesy, PropStream is just telling you which of those numbers you probably should be very careful with, right? And so that's a very great question, Harold, because we're getting that as we speak now. People are like, well, why am I paying for these numbers? You're not paying for the DNC numbers. You're already going to get it no matter what. We're just telling you which ones you should not be calling, right? So there's no way to avoid it. It's just now we're just telling you which ones that are DNC and which ones are not.
Right. Okay. My third question is, I have some issues.
Is that your FIDO?
No, actually, these are the hardship that most of our VA are getting. So I just want to raise it as early as now. We use sometimes not a zip code. We use like a drawing, like what do you call this?
The draw search feature?
Yeah, the draw search feature. It has a maximum like a 50-mile radius, something like that. I mean, we want, if there's a chance to make it like, you know, around maybe something, a workaround to make it bigger or something like that.
There isn't. Yeah, that's server. That's again part of the whole limitations with the server. That's the same thing as why you can only search 5 zip codes for now. But in the future, very near future, that will be different. But no, there's no way to work around that. I think it's a 20-mile square radius limitation.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, with that one, you'll have to do the same thing where you have to search like different. You have to do different searches. There's no one big circle that you can make right now. So just look for an update in the I would say this year, hopefully towards the 3rd or 4th quarter.
Alrighty. I think that's about for me. Perfect. Thank you very much, Burton.
Appreciate it, Harold. I think that's everyone's question. I think they just sent Harold the question to ask Harold to do it.
Well, hey, that's good. I mean, Harold, thanks for stepping up. I mean, asking that question again. There's no stupid question. If you guys feel that, hey, I'm going to be embarrassed, I'm embarrassed that. No, ask that question. It's not a dumb question. You want to know this stuff because it could be the reason why you get your next paycheck, right? So don't ever hesitate to ask. Even if you think it's a stupid question, it's not. Just bring it up. But thank you guys so much for your time. CeCe, thank you again for setting this up. And if you guys need anything else, just reach out, okay?
I definitely owe you a drink now, Burton, once you come back to the Philippines. But again, thank you so much. You're amazing. So I hope you have a great day, weekend. Actually, it's a weekend. Thank you, Burton.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Burton.
Thanks.